Okay, this is now the 27th of May 2019, and I wanted to talk a little bit and give you a couple of ideas about king cards, and what they mean and how to work with them or how to deal with them. But before that, the last video was about the tarot as notes or reminders, and I don't think I used the word trigger during that video, but I can't be bothered listening to it again. I think I remember when I was recording it thinking I don't want to use the word trigger, and this is because I've seen too many blogs and videos where people teaching you how to read the tarot and how to use your psychic ability will say, in some ways you don't need cards. All you need is something to trigger your psychic understanding, impression, whatever it happens to be. And I don't take that approach. And I think it's I don't say asking for trouble, but I think it's the wrong way to go, because I think the tarot ought to be logical, and what we say ought to be something that the questioner can understand and can make sense of, the way that we make sense of it. So as an example, I was thinking about, let's say that the last video I talked about the King of Pentacles reversed. So let's say the reader turns over the King of Pentacles and says, you're going to get bitten by a dog. And the reason they say that is because when they turned the card, the first thought that came to mind was, or maybe they remembered something they'd heard, or they imagined, or they saw in their mind's eye, they saw the question being bitten by a dog. So the card triggered an idea or an impression or a meaning or a thought or an action or something. And so they just go with it without wondering why, without questioning. They trust that their own psychic ability is correct on this occasion. Maybe they think it's correct all the time. But what's the connection between the King of Swords, the King of Coins reversed, and being bitten by a dog? That's hard. Maybe it will happen. But the questioner can't really understand why, and maybe do something about it. So whereas if you, the reader, spend some time thinking about kings, so kings, thinking about a king, the king is in charge. So kings can represent being in charge or being in control. And the king reverse can mean somebody who ought not to be in control, or who thinks that they're in control but they're not really, or somebody who doesn't have the skill to be in control and to give orders, because the king can also represent leadership. And some people, I'm sure you know, are in positions of leadership and they're terrible at it. They can't read people. They give orders that people disobey. They give orders that people don't bother paying attention to. And so that kind of person can be represented by a king, and by a king that's upside down. So when you're thinking of kings, maybe in your study time, you think about kings in themselves, and you come up with a few ideas that could relate to kings. So maybe authority is one of them. So the king upright, you are a legitimate authority. You know what you're about. You're an expert. You're experienced. You're worth listening to. You're an authority in that area. So you're worth listening to. So somebody wants to know, am I going to get the job? And the King of Pentacles comes up. Yes, you will, because people recognize that you know what you're talking about, and that you'll be a good boss, a good leader. You'll give good orders that people will be happy to obey or contribute to. Whereas the King of Pentacles reversed, am I going to get the job? No. Why not? Partly because you're really not suited for it, or you don't yet have the skills. So maybe what you do is you go off and you develop the skill, then apply for the job, and because you've got the skill, you'll get it this next time. So the king reverse can be, you don't have the skill. Maybe you'll never have that particular skill. Maybe you just need to train for it. So let's say you get the reverse king and you start talking about how you give orders, but people are not going to obey. And the questioner says, why not? So maybe what you do is you pick a card, and if you get the Three of Cups, the King of Pentacles reversed with the Three of Cups. Why won't people do as you tell them? Because you're too friendly. Three of Cups, the three people dancing. You're too friendly. They like you as a person, but when you try to give them orders or tell them what to do, it's like a friend trying to tell them what to do, and it doesn't work. So maybe what you do with the King of Pentacles reversed and the Three of Cups is you have to put a distance between you and the people that you want to give orders to. Because with the Three of Cups, there isn't enough distance. So they don't see you as the authority, as the boss. Whereas if you've got the king reversed and you pick, let's say, the Eight of Swords, when you tell them what to do, they feel as if they're trapped and they've got no say. So maybe what you do is, with the King of Pentacles reversed, lighten up a bit, loosen up. What you do is you get feedback from the employees about different possibilities, and maybe then you tell them what you were going to tell them anyway, but they at least think that they've had some kind of input, that they've had made some kind of contribution to the instructions that you're giving them, so they don't feel trapped and unable to move and restricted, as shown by the Eight of Swords. So you can think of a king as representing authority, or leadership, or skill in leading other people. So upside down, you don't have the authority for some reason. You don't have the skill to lead people. And I was thinking as well about, if you remember Hamlet's uncle killed the father and married the queen and became the new king. There's a word in English, a usurper, the usurper to the throne. Or is it usurper of the throne? I think it's usurper to the throne. And this is somebody who does not have a legitimate claim to power. And they do something sketchy to get there. And that can be what the king reverse represents as well. So if the question is represented by the king reversed, remind them, if you do something that's not quite 100% pure and honest, you may get to where you want to get, but it's probably going to backfire. So you might want to think twice or think 3 times before you do something where you're bending the rules or doing something that's maybe slightly illegal or not completely honest. Because we've got the idea of usurper. So if you've had a number of thoughts about kings representing authority, the ability to lead, the ability to inspire, because kings can give speeches and whatever that get the population excited about the future, that kind of thing. That can be what a king would represent as well. So if you've got ideas about what kings can represent, when you turn the card and you get the King of Pentacles upside down, you've already got a few notes or ideas or reminders. And if you just start talking, you're going to be accurate. You're going to automatically talk about the right selection, or you're going to automatically select the right kind of information to talk about based on the question that was asked and the questioner. And the thing is, I think it ought to be logical. So if you turn a king and it's upside down and you start talking about authority but not quite able to handle it properly, the questioner can understand why you're talking this way, because they can see it's a king and they can see it's upside down. So even if it's not exactly what you say, the questioner is going to look and think, okay, because you talk a bit about what kings can represent and its authority and its leadership, they're going to be able to know their situation, and maybe it reminds them of something they tried, or that they tried to give instructions to other people and it backfired or it didn't work. So they're going to be able to relate to what you talk about. But it's kind of logical as well, and it makes sense because you're taking the king as authority or leadership or inspiration or whatever it happens to be, and talking about that. And the question is going to be able to understand and add to and make more sense of what you say. Whereas if you turn the card and get the King of Pentacles reversed and tell them they're going to get bitten by a dog, it's harder for them. But then I was thinking before I sat down, I used to sometimes see a TV show called The Dog Whisperer, run by Caesar Milan, who would be called in to fix or to help owners deal with vicious dogs or disobedient dogs, whatever it happens to be. And the thing was, Caesar knew how to handle all kinds of dogs, different sizes, different temperaments. So in a way, the King of Pentacles reversed, being bitten by a dog, can make sense if you understand that the reason you get bitten is because you don't know what you're doing with the dog. So if you meet a vicious dog or a bad-tempered dog, understand that you don't know how to deal with that dog, so stay away. Otherwise, you'll get bitten. Or otherwise, the dog will not appreciate or understand or will misinterpret your movement towards it. Because apparently there's something about the way you move towards a dog. If the dog's a little bit frightened, it's going to misinterpret, or it's going to interpret your movement as a threat and as an attack, and they're going to defend themselves. But the problem with being bitten by a dog is you don't know what you're doing, which is kind of a king upside down. Lack of skill. So it's important for the questioner to, if they find themselves in a situation where they don't know exactly what to do, hold back and let somebody who does know what to do take over. By all means, observe them and understand and learn the best way to deal with the situation. But don't assume that you know what to do, or that even if you don't know what to do, it's going to work out well, because it probably won't. Okay, I think that's what I wanted to say. So I'll stop, and thanks for watching. If you have comments or questions, put them down below, and I'll see you in a few days or a couple of days. Okay, bye-bye.